I honestly can't fathom how the chaos surrounding Donald Trump's White House could possibly get any worse, guys. But the president's own troubles are endless. But the dysfunction amongst his inner circle seems to spiral even further out of control every day. Pete Hegseth embarrassed himself spectacularly the other day, under the influence of those, cringeworthy Fox News awards. Caroline Levitt seems to do it and manages to do it on a daily basis. And now the ever toxic Stephen Miller and his wife have found themselves entangled once again in a scandal that's exploiting in the most damaging legal way possible. And if I could kindly ask you to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, please, guys. It does help and support our work. Now, Stephen Miller is one of them key architects of Trump's most cruel and inhumane immigration policies, guys. He's built a dark legacy of orchestrating morally reprehensible ICE raids and politics that shattered families and violated basic, decency. But now, behind closed doors, there's a new and even more alarming twist involving his wife. One with serious legal implications that could expose just how deep the rot runs within Trump's orbit. Now, the situation is also unraveling fast, guys, and according to reporting highlighted by Rachel Maddow here, it explains and points out an even bleaker picture of the corruption and depravity that defines Trump's administration.
Cell phone spyware called Pegasus. It's spyware that infects your phone. They target your phone. You don't have to do anything wrong to be infected with it. You don't have to click on anything or do anything. They infect your phone with this spyware without you ever knowing it. Your phone shows no sign of it. And once they have infected your phone, they get access to everything that is on your phone and everything that you do with your phone. They can access its location at any time. They can turn on the microphone to hear what's happening where you are. They can turn on the camera to see you and what's around you. They can see all of the photos on your phone, all of your contacts, all of your messages, all of your notes to self, everything, even stuff that you might think is encrypted. It's not encrypted when you look at it on your phone. If you can look at it on your phone, they will have it. People close to Jamal Khashoggi were found to have been targeted, to have had their phones targeted with Pegasus software before he was murdered. Pegasus has been used to target opposition politicians and activists and lawyers and journalists all over the world, some of whom have subsequently been assassinated by despotic regimes. When this kind of a spyware surveillance tool emerged as a favored weapon for authoritarian governments and murderous dictatorships around the world, the Joe Biden administration banned the U.S. government from ever using that particular spyware or anything like it. Well, then Donald Trump was elected, and the Trump administration has now quietly reversed that ban. And indeed, they have now contracted with a company that makes exactly that same kind of spyware as Pegasus. And which part of the Trump administration is using it? Which part of the Trump administration has been given this surveillance tool? ICE. And are they using it just against immigrants? Yeah, right, as if. Headline in the Washington Post: ICE amps up its surveillance powers. ICE's acting director says the agency will deploy its elite investigative officers to probe anti-ICE protest networks. Former officials have expressed concern that ICE now has a green light not only to monitor immigrant communities, but also to carry out broad surveillance of Americans.
Donald Trump seems to be obsessed with the idea of watching and controlling Americans every second of the day, guys. A thought that's downright chilling and should terrify anyone who values some sort of freedom. This administration just represents one of the most aggressive assaults on free speech in modern US history, in my opinion. Trump has no problem defending bigots who, spread hate, people making racist or xenophobic remarks get his full support all the time. But the moment anyone dares to criticize his personal regime or question US complicity in the atrocities committed by Israel, Trump's response is pure, authoritarianism, nothing else. Silence, the dissenters and punish the critics and crush opposition by any means necessary. That's his formula. And right on cue, his longtime enabler, Stephen Miller, is out there trying to spin this dangerous crackdown as something justified, peddling yet another, deranged, fear-mongering excuse during a Fox News appearance. It's a glimpse of into his, warped mindset, driving Trump's movement, one that thrives on hate, paranoia, and the erosion of basic democratic freedoms.
Well, look, I hate to say it, Sean, but Democrat leaders are siding with the domestic terrorists. Antifa is waging, as I explained in that clip you played, daily violent assault against ICE officers. They are attempting to physically prevent ICE officers from doing their jobs, using every means imaginable, including, of course, as we saw just a few weeks ago, attempted murder. And then we saw a few days ago another attempted murder through a vehicle ramming attack. It is unceasing, day after day, night after night.
Keep all of this in perspective. Stephen Miller is openly advocating for this dystopian level of government surveillance, guys. He wants the power to monitor private citizens, labeling any speech that doesn't align with Trump's authoritarian agenda as domestic terrorism. In Miller's twisted vision of America, dissent itself becomes a crime, and the target is you. So yet in another display of almost comical hypocrisy, guys. I mean, Miller paints himself as the, perpetual victim. He moans about being attacked, claims Elon Musk somehow stole his wife, and now whines about supposed emotional distress caused by a 66-year-old woman. The irony is breathtaking. The man who helped craft policies that devastated countless lives is suddenly, crying foul because his own reckless behavior and disastrously backfired lawsuit have come back to haunt him. Now, it's perfect embodiment of Trump, Trump world hypocrisy, guys. Cruel when in power and pitiful when exposed. Feds tried to nail senior 66 for looking at Stephen Miller's wife. A federal magistrate twice denied FBI bids to search a 66-year-old woman's phone, stalling the DOJ's Stephen Miller doxing probe against her. Magistrate Judge Lindsay Valler on Wednesday refused the Bureau's request to examine the smartphone of activist Barbara Wine in a case the Justice Department says involves doxing of top White House advisor Stephen Miller, 40, and looking at his podcaster's wife, Katie Miller, 34. The White House believes that Wine should be prosecuted after she was seen posting flyers in Miller's neighborhood saying he was not welcome in Arlington, Virginia. The posters had a photo of him crossed out and the message, "No Nazis in Nova." It also featured a QR code linking to a local activist Instagram account, according to affidavits described by Axios. Weeks earlier, Arlington's elected prosecutor, Parissa Dinghani Tafti, had asked a state judge to narrow a separate phone search warrant and restrict data sharing with the FBI, which Miller's people interpreted as an activist prosecutor trying to wreck their case. The Justice Department intends to appeal, according to Axios, which reviewed court records. The outlet reported that a senior administration official fumed that Northern Virginia's justice system believes Trump's deputy chief of staff deserves this. The position of the judge in the justice system in Northern Virginia is Stephen Miller deserves this, so it shouldn't be investigated, a senior administration official told Axios. This is just about gathering evidence to see if there should be an arrest, and the judges are blocking it. Wine's attorney countered that she broke no laws. The case has become a proxy fight over free speech and safety in the capital's Virginia suburbs, and stemmed from a confrontation that began September 11th, one day after conservative activist Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Investigators say Wine then passed the Miller's house and flashed on, "I'm watching you," gesture toward Miller's wife, Katie, which was captured on Secret Service surveillance. The DOJ alleges potential violations of Virginia and federal doxing laws, but Wine's lawyer, Bradley R. Haywood, says the speech was lawful and her phone is being unlawfully held. Even when Stephen Miller isn't busy orchestrating the Trump administration's cruel anti-immigration policies and agendas, tearing families apart and deporting people, including veterans, guys, to dangerous conditions abroad. I mean, he's apparently challenging that same authoritarian energy into his personal life as well. He's like the ultimate neighborhood tyrant, You know, the self-proclaimed HOA of his own street, desperate to control everyone around him. Miller has long behaved like a, petty enforcer for Trumpism, policing people's lives and speech while demanding sympathy whenever he's personally called out. Now, his wife, Katie, him and his wife, Katie, are losing a legal battle that perfectly exposes their own personal hypocrisy. They've tried to paint themselves as victims after being called out for what they are. Extremists enabling a hateful regressive movement, but labeling Miller a Nazi isn't against the law, guys. And neither is telling his wife to stop spreading a tiresome conservative woman or victims narrative. That tired line, ignores the reality that the biggest threat to women like her often comes from within their own political circles. Figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace have learned the hard way that in Trump's GOP, misogyny isn't an accident. It's the actual foundation. Yet they still prop up the same, system that will never respect them as equals. It's, in my opinion, as simple as that. It's exhausting watching this parade of self-inflicted victimhood from Trump loyalists. People who thrive on cruelty and then cry foul when it turns back on them. Stephen Miller and Katie Miller and their entire brand of politics represents everything toxic about Trump's movement. So it's hypocritical and utterly devoid of any empathy, guys. It's no wonder so many Americans are beyond tired of seeing these people in positions of power. I mean, they've drained the country's patience, compassion, and faith in leadership.
It is a bad look to tear down the White House East Wing to build a fancy new gilded ballroom, or to post 25 photos of your new bathroom. 25. Just every angle, every way you could look at it, in the midst of a government shutdown while the air traffic controllers are working without pay. It's truly a Hall of Fame bad look on the day that SNAP funding lapsed and 42 million Americans had their lives upended, to be hosting a Great Gatsby-themed party at his palatial golf home in Florida filled with West Palm Beach rich folks dressed up like it's the Roaring '20s. You remember The Great Gatsby, of course, the novel about the idle rich people on Long Island who throw hollow, gilded parties to show off their lavish wealth just before the country collapsed into the worst depression it's ever seen. All this is not going unnoticed. Sometimes it feels like no one notices this stuff, but this is getting noticed. This was the message that was projected in Washington, D.C. this week. Trump parties at Mar-a-Lago while 42 million go hungry. It's no wonder why Republicans are starting to feel some political pressure.
Is anyone else feeling completely drained by all of this, guys? I mean, because honestly, the exhaustion is real. Even Donald Trump seems so worn out by his own incompetence that he's reportedly nodding off during meetings in the Oval Office. And of course, the mainstream media largely just ignores it as usual. They'd rather protect his fragile image than confront the reality of a president who's both mentally and morally bankrupt. I mean, it's infuriating at times for so many of us. I mean, this fatigue isn't just political, it's emotional. We've been watching it for years of corruption and cruelty and gaslighting from Trump and his enablers. I mean, it's beyond a joke, guys, and the media's failure to hold them accountable only makes it worse. But if there's any silver lining, it's the solidarity that independent guys are building by standing up against it. The community that shared resistance, it does really matter. And as always, guys, I appreciate you for staying with me till the end. Please like the video, comment and share. Stay safe, stay connected, and I shall see you on the next one.